Thursday, April 9th, 2026. We'll have a call to order. To tuning. Looks like he's absent, but I would expect him here at some point. But Alana Courtney here. Elizabeth is here. Mary Hanson here. Beth Justice here. Robbie Wilson here. Having a forum. Stand for the pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. On the agenda, if I could make an adjustment and move Main Street up to A and B on the old business, so that the presenter can get out of here a little soon, because I'm sure he's not interested in the bridge. So do I need a motion for that, or just?
It's just part of your approval of the agenda as amended.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I tell them. They tried to talk.
Is that you, Andrea?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have minutes for March 26th to approve. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I so move.
Do I have a second on that? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next up, resolution 2026-003.
Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen, the resolution is for a proclamation recognizing April 2026 as National Volunteer Month and April 19th through 2026 as National Volunteer Week in the town of Urbanna. The Volunteer River Counties has requested that the town council consider a proclamation recognizing the above items which I've described. They note that volunteerism generates a multi-billion-dollar economic impact across Virginia, a value felt deeply right here. On that note, consider just the volunteer hours given to the Scottish Factor Store and Museum amounts to approximately $8,000 in savings for staff salaries. Consider the additional positive financial impact of our Marina and landscaping volunteers, and money aside, the contribution of time and effort provides safety and attractiveness to the town. There is no fiscal impact of the passing of the resolution. However, staff has requested approval to utilize up to $750 for an appreciation event. Staff recommendation is that that event would also be held at Taylor Park on Friday the 24th from noon until 2 for the volunteers to serve the team. And the council action requested is to adopt the resolution. I'm happy to take any questions you have at this time.
No question, just to add on to your statement and the statement here in the resolution that this town wouldn't function without the volunteers that put in their time and effort, and that would include members of council. So they are under-recognized for the appreciation they deserve.
So, not trying to be a Grinch, but we got money in a light item to pay for this. Sorry, money's there. Good.
We have some money in recognition,
Yeah,
that we can use.
Yeah. So, any other questions? Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution as presented?
I so move.
Do I have a second on that? Any discussion?
Don't look at me.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need a voice vote on that as a resolution? Okay. Any opposed? Resolution is passed. Let the minutes show that Mr. Tuning has joined us. Tuning in the house. All right, moving on. Staff.
This is administrator's report for March, getting in April. For me, it was relatively short month because I took a week for vacation for baseball. But meetings attended included a review of the personnel policy draft with the treasurer and attorney, Oyster Festival fee increase, and with the treasurer and attorney, that means with the Oyster Festival fee increase was with the treasurer and attorney. And then also we had a server capability meeting with the clerk and Frank Trines. That's our information vendor. I managed to close one zoning violation and address the tree removal from the Women's Club property as not being in violation. Enforcement concluded prevailing in a golf cart matter in court as well. The well house repair was started and completed in less than a week. I think you have some pictures on that. Staff coordinated with the contractor. We increased the water level in the tank, and then at each day, they got to a point where they could reactivate the system and refill the tank. Bring this up a little bit so you can see the before and after. So there are the before pictures, and then this is the difference with the repair.
What's the cost of that?
$27,500. Now here's the good news. We had some money left over in the well project, the creation of well number 6, the closing of well number 5, and I was able to present that this failure was probably related to increased pressure from the new wells, and the USDA is going to cover that bill for us. In fact,
That's great.
money was scheduled to go in today.
That's great.
Okay.
So rather than paying out of pocket, we're paying over 40 years at 1.75%.
Well, for this immediate bill, yes,
Yes.
we're paying that out of pocket, but we'll be reimbursed.
Right.
Then we'll pay them a note.
Right.
But we felt like it was easier to stretch that out rather than take 27,000 hit this summer. Okay. And any money that's left over in that USDA amount, it lowers our payment schedule. It either lowers how much we have to pay or how soon we can pay it off. So we do want to thank the citizens for any water saving steps that they took during that time. We really didn't hear any problems with pressure or anything else during that time. Your last regular meeting, I was directed to Bill, the Virginia Department of Transportation, for covering water valves. I will take that later in the meeting. There are 2 separate items related to that. I also received word from the Department of Environmental Quality regarding our water withdrawal permit application needed additional information, and I'm working with the engineer to fulfill those requirements. We received word the documentary film event is going to happen May 12 through 14, weather dependent. Sites in the town to be involved include the Marina, the Scottish Factory Store, as well as some private property. Again, that's another item for you later this evening. Activity around those locations may require cooperation to limit noise, but there will be noise associated with cannon and musket fire. Town staff is providing logistical support such as lodging and meal venues. We're still waiting for the Oyster Festival Incident Action Plan documentation. That's what I wrote, but since then I have gotten that documentation. The status of the pre-engineering grant, I'm happy to tell you, we got that grant. $450,000 towards pre-engineering of a permanent bridge.
Wow.
Okay, so anything temporary is not covered, and basically we really need to stop thinking about permanent bridge right now, because anything we do related to the permanent bridge is not reimbursable under the grant. So if you so choose, the focus needs to be on a temporary bridge that's outside the grant. Okay, we were talking about this before the meeting. So I'm going to get into a little bit more detail here. We still have the application in with Representative Whitman's office. We don't know when we're going to hear about that. That was written for both temporary and permanent. So there may be a way to kind of come back and reimburse ourselves. But first step is you have to get that money. And we don't know if we're going to get that money. I can tell you that we did not get any money from the General Assembly for this project. I believe that is the extent of the report. There are some things in here that, again, I'm giving you updates on because we just literally got word on some of these things Monday. We found out about the grant, $450,000. So there's some things that have happened last week. It's not reflected here, but wanted to share it with you. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to take your questions.
I'm confused on the grant. It only covers a permanent bridge. But we want to focus on a temporary bridge. So I'm a little confused on why. What's the?
Because the way the grant was written, when it was written last summer, was for a permanent bridge replacement.
Okay,
So that's the category. it's in.
okay,
That doesn't cover temporary bridges.
I understand. And so eventually, somewhere down the road, could be 5 years, 10 years, there is money that is earmarked, that is designated from the county for that. It's a grant.
This is coming from the feds.
Oh, it's coming from that.
It's coming from the
It doesn't have a shelf life.
We just got information Monday that was
No.
just awarded.
Okay.
Yeah, and let me be
Okay.
clear, the applicant was actually the planning district committee.
Yes.
Okay, they're the grant administrator. They're working on our behalf.
Right.
Now, we'll be involved in the
It's
consultation.
just something that we contribute toward them financially to do that sort of thing. So that's great.
So, yeah, this was a good piece of money coming back.
Okay.
Would you repeat that again? Who wrote the grant?
The planning district commission, Middle Peninsula Planning District
Yeah.
Commission wrote the grant.
We shouldn't be cutting any money from that. Budget. Yeah.
Right.
Remember we
That's
talked
right.
about
Yeah.
that last year? We
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing anything like that. This
Right.
is, this is when things come up. We say, well, what do they do for us?
Right. Yeah.
Well, then, well,
Well,
I don't know, but then something's gonna come up.
another thing, and I've said this before, is there's
Remember that.
a lot of regulatory things that are for the entire region that we're a member of, that we have an obligation to make, administrative contributions to the stuff. And for us to take that on ourselves would just be a nightmare. And so being a part of that planning district commission allows us to just piggyback as a member.
I have a question, Becky. The grant. I know I'm always skeptical of grants because there's usually hair involved, that's something negative, like when we found out we couldn't use the trolley for Christmas. That was in the grant. Has somebody read this grant carefully to see
I've read the application.
what
I
is
haven't
it?
looked-
But you haven't seen the
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let me also add, this is a grant where we don't have to do a match.
Right.
This is 100% coming in. There's no 80-20, 50-50 split.
Yeah.
This is all from,
So is somebody like Andrea going to go over it carefully?
again, we're not the grant administrator. We're the beneficiaries of the grant.
So we get it, but we don't know what's gonna.
Well, no, we're going to know what's in it once we get people.
Right.
But I
That's
can't
what I'm saying. Is somebody going to carefully read that?
Yeah. I will look at it. I'll get the grant requirements and obligations, and Ted and I will go over it.
Ted, just because I still understand, and honestly, I would appreciate doing this before I invited the speaker that's coming up. Why should we start looking at a temporary solution? If we have, this gentleman's proposing, whether we use it or not now, different, that the pre-engineering work on a permanent solution that fits well within this grant amount.
Because anything that you do prior to the official awarding, all the paperwork is signed, you cannot charge it against the grant.
But you could, once it has to be all signed, awarded, signed, it has to be official. And presumably that would be within the next month.
And go through the RFP process.
Oh, okay, right.
because
Right.
it's federal money.
Federal money, you have to have 3 bids, probably.
Again, probably at least, assuming at least 3, perhaps more, depending
Okay.
on the requirements of the grant. They may require 5. We don't know yet.
But going out and getting a proposal, which in the case is what we've done, there's no harm in that, right? You would just have to agree, if you wanted to apply, you could apply.
I don't want to say yes, because I don't know what the technicality of the grant
Right.
are. All we've got is an award letter, an email that says the PDC on our behalf has won this grant. After that, I cannot answer any technical questions because I haven't seen anything beyond that in the original application.
Okay, so do we want to, I mean, should we let him present? I mean,
I would just, so you have more information when it comes time to make
Right.
a decision.
from what I've been told, not just specific to Mr. Evans here, what he's proposing is a pretty standard way of engineering these things. I agree, it's educational. It's up to you, Chase, if you present. Sure.
And, you know, we haven't signed any contract, so,
Yeah, this isn't,
you know, the hope would be that it would give us some wiggle room, although it may be that, you know, with Evans here, with some of the other people that we've talked to, we're gonna have to get 4 or 5 more people giving us the same kind of information before we can sign on a dotted line. And that's where we don't know what constraints we're under, that's the bottom line.
Don't hold me to this, but I don't see any problem with getting information.
Yes.
But starting the formal process, do not want to make any commitments right now until we know what these documents are.
Exactly, that's where I was going, because
Okay.
it may be just with pre-engineering stuff, regardless of who does the work, it's gonna be information that's gonna be useful to them.
Well, some of the information you've received already, and I go to the WRA presentation, is what are the structural elements that are causing this bridge to fail? I think that's good information to have and to understand before you make a decision on how we're going to fix it.
But that would not be compensable under the grant,
Right.
because it preceded the finalization.
Okay.
we weren't planning on voting on this tonight anyway. This is just a information.
Right.
Present. Okay. Well, that clarifies my, thank you.
That it?
Yes. Ms. Hutchins?
Good evening, everybody. Mine's really short and sweet. It's a slower time of year. The treasurer's report was emailed to all. We have interest coming due on the 15th of this month. Nothing really out of the ordinary, expenses or income for the month of February. Business as usual. The golf cart applications, renewals were mailed and they are coming in quite well. And the other thing that I would like to report is the real estate lien that I had has been released on the party that was 5 years delinquent. They paid. Good. So at this point, I don't have any outstanding liens on real estate. That can change down the road, but as of right now, there are none. As you can also see from the meals tax, we had a little up push with the hard winter and all the snow and the ice. Some of our businesses were struggling a little bit. I still have 2 that are delinquent, and I'm working with them to get them covered. That's all I have.
And the only thing that I can add that makes it a little more current is the Tabor Fund, with the latest volatility, had dipped down to a little over $1.1 million, but over the last couple of days, it's back up over 1.2. So it never went down below the hallmark of $1 million during this volatility. So my father used to say it's too soon to giggle, but at least we're in a good spot.
Any questions for me?
Yeah, I have probably, which is really a stupid question. Is that rental water deposit, why is it minus 20,000?
That specific category is the general ledger account and it's escrow, meaning we cannot count it in the general fund. It's deposits that were paid from renters that eventually, when they move out, will be refunded back to the renter.
I have an even dumber question. And it's the very first line. And, the 2025, what did we spend $500,000? I'm sure we spent it on something, but what? Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said, I knew it was gonna be.
I thought the same thing. Where's all the money? Oh, wait.
Yeah.
However, we still have, the C&F accounts, back then, we had taken 400,000 out of the operating account to put in one of those super specials. So that, those funds have been making us interest the whole time. And instead of touching that investment, we took the purchase price out of the operating account because it was definitely there and it's not making a lot.
Thank you. Gerald.
Thank you. Report, please.
I don't have much different to report, same thing going on, working with Frank. We're trying to set up a folder structure and then see set up a server data retention policy before we can put us on the new server. So we're working on that as well. And then continue to work on everything else. Any questions? Thank you.
Robbie, finance?
Well, we haven't been meeting, we need to get going on our budget, I know we've been waiting, because they were going to spend on the bridge, but it sounds like that's going to end up being on hold, so I'll need to call a meeting to get this budget process started. I don't expect anything horribly different from last year, and certainly the issue of the town hall stuff, so that will make things a little tougher, I believe. So whenever you want, let me know, we can do it next week, or just call a meeting to get going.
You're the one with the, I think, most restrictive schedule, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty open right now, so we'll get going.
Marjorie's not here, but she was nominated and accepted the position as Water Committee Chairman. There's a written report, I believe, that is in your folder. It covers really most of the stuff that either Mr. Costin has already talked about or is coming up later with respect to wellhouse repair, and some of the other items that are later in the agenda. So there for your reading at your leisure. And I think we can move on that. Marjorie is special events, but Beth, you have anything to say about
Special
Uh-oh. You're just special.
Oh, thanks. I'm still working on 4th of July. We found out things are said. We got a military band Friday. I am going to, for a request from people that I've asked online, we're going to do a movie Friday night with a blow-up screen. I have a projector at the foundry where I work, so half of it we've already got. We're going to pick out the movie, but that's some options. And some difference going to do the pie eating contest. We've got a lot of other little things going on. It looks like we're going to have live music for 2 days. I had a possibility of doing a drone show, but it was just too much money. It would have knocked out all the money we had to do all the other stuff with. So for 12 minutes of drones, we would have had to do it in the park, and then it was through a different person, and we just couldn't do all the other stuff. So it just made more sense to use the money that we have to do more things with it spread out through the whole weekend. So, but it's going. I got a lot going on set up. A lot of it's for the kids and for adults, but hopefully everybody will find something that they like.
Personnel didn't meet.
Personnel didn't meet. No, I think we're still just working. We're inching along on the personnel policy. So.
All right. Anybody for public comment? Moving on. Main Street Wayfaring presentation.
Very briefly, this one, because I've got to show you a presentation will be given by Sean Turback. I believe he's the one who's zooming in. He's the art director and wayfinding specialist with Barnett, Muldrow and Associates. He's been retained by Urbanna Main Street to develop a wayfaring signage proposals, and members of Main Street are present to reacquaint council with the project. But note the project has been coordinated with Bay Transit and the Urbanna Business Association. There's no fiscal impact of business grant funded project. The staff recommendation is to accept the proposal and direct staff to develop a memorandum of understanding to consider the signs, town signs, with the installation and maintenance of the responsibility to be that of Main Street. And that is the requested council action. You have sample motion for their presentation, but before the presentation, if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to take them.
The only question I have is, can we manipulate the screen so that we can see Sean in a larger thumbnail?
He will when he
He
shares
will,
the screen.
Okay, okay, just want to make sure. Oh,
All right, I'm trying to get this. Of course, we've only been doing this technology now for 6 years, and I'm still struggling to get it to play and share at the same time. So let me share Keynote.
Right, Sean, we were gonna introduce you.
Okay, great.
Okay, so, Urbanna Main Street's back before you tonight to unveil the wayfinding signage system that, we've been working on. We brought this to you, last year and got your approval on. I just want to say the number of times that I have read it as wayfaring instead of wayfinding, which I think I heard tonight, but I just thought that was so funny. But it is wayfinding. And as you recall, we were awarded $15,000 to kind of bring this vision to life. And one of the best parts about being a part of the Main Street is having access to really talented people like this who understand small towns. And, we are fortunate to have Sean, again, of Arnett Muldrow out of Greenville, South Carolina. He's worked with over 60 Main Street programs across the country. So very knowledgeable, and I'll just pass it very quickly over to Sarah.
Yeah, and Sean spent 3 days with us in February and really got to know our town well, spent time with all of our businesses, us, and with members of council and TED. And we are just so glad that we found him, and he went above and beyond the scope of the grant, which you're about ready to see what he did. And what started as a wayfinding project became something bigger, a new visual identity for our town designed to welcome more visitors and enhance the experience for everyone who already calls Urbanna home. So with no more, this is Sean.
I like your t-shirt.
Well,
Thank you. You've already seen more of this.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. Thank you all for having me this evening. As Sarah Jane mentioned, I was there a couple months ago and really enjoyed my time in Urbanna and would love to find an excuse to come back to the community, maybe around the Oyster Fest, or maybe when there's, some places to stay when there isn't 60,000 people in the community, which it just sounds like a tremendous event for you all, and I'd love to witness it. But that being said, I'd love to just jump in here. And first, I want to ask, which screen are you seeing now? Are you seeing the main screen or 2 slides?
2 slides. And a big
Okay, then is it just the 1 slide now?
Yeah.
Did that fix it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna just kind of breeze through this, but if you have any questions about the wayfinding, and that being said, even in the industry, people call it different things: wayfaring, wayfinding. So it's fine if you write one or say one differently. Nobody's going to get offended. But the scope of the work that I came into the community to work on was doing a background review of the efforts the community is already doing between the business association and the town itself, and with Main Street's new initiatives. And then we looked at some of the traffic patterns from VDOT to the communities, sort of helping me understand what the preferred traffic patterns were. We did a great tour of the community. Even with, it was a little chilly, but it was still a wonderful tour. Got out to Meroirs and had a phenomenal dinner, and really got to, experience the community. And I appreciate the fact that it wasn't tour like very busy season, because it really let me kind of pay attention to the community more so than worrying about a lot of people and traffic and all. So it was really nice to be there sort of in the off season. And then that helped me kind of create the system mapping that we'll see here in a moment, as well as the wayfinding sign concepts that I put together. But first, as Sarah Jane had mentioned, one of the first things I noticed while I was in the community and we started talking about the design of this was that we weren't quite sure what the design needed to represent as far as a destination. And whenever I say destination, I'm thinking about downtown. And, downtown is sort of this amorphous concept to a lot of people, where there's not necessarily a boundary. It's more of a character district. Main Street has a boundary, and then the business association is going to, have its focal point of the businesses that they're working with and talking to, and the town has its municipal boundaries. But, whenever we talk about visiting a community, what do we mean? And so an analogy we like to make is with universities. And if you graduate from Clemson, they stamp your diploma with their seal. If you go, and you're applying college, all the applications have the seal on there. It's really that formal identity of the university. But nobody's going to a game on Friday night to see the fighting palmetto trees. They're going there to see the Tigers. And so that's really what our conversation led to, was we have these incredible organizations in Urbana that are doing tremendous work. We've got the town using the seal, this goes on your proclamations, and the tax bills and the trash cans and things of that. Those official imprimaturs are important. And then we have the Urbana Business Association, which is doing a tremendous job with marketing and promoting the businesses and the community as a whole. And then we have the Main Street that's working on, event promotion and downtown promotion and more business promotion. We've got a lot of overlap where everybody's kind of got their own territory and we've got our own efforts, but they're all organizations. And so nobody is going to really visit the Oyster Festival and say, I want to go visit the business association, or I want to visit the Main Street organization. They're coming to the community. So what does that mean whenever they come there? And so some of the cool things that I learned while I was there was about, the branding that's been done from Main Street, the typeface that was selected for the town and the business association, and the color palettes that are being used. And then this historic Chesapeakean Jeffersonus. I've probably got that more wrong than Wayfarer did, as a word. But this inspiration of this historic sort of fossil that's found all within this community and within the region, and these beautiful sunrises over the water that or sunsets. That is it, sunrises or I'm getting myself backwards here. Sorry. Yes. So, this beautiful connection to the water that we really wanted to reiterate, because your proximity there is, one of the driving forces for people's love of the community, and that connection to the water and the industry and the history, it's all tied in there. And so I wanted to combine these elements into a unique identity for this destination that is downtown Urbana. And we can see that shell represented in this energetic sunrise that's coming up over the water. But we have that little landing there of the green land, which kind of makes me think of the Urbana Hollywood sign that's right there on the shore, which I thought was just really cool of you all to put there on the bank, letting people know that the community is there, creating that sense of place. I put this concept together for Main Street to use and for the community as a whole to use. And we always want to make sure that it works in different configurations, in single colors, for whether it's t-shirts or flags or pins or whatever you might want to use, but also in more of a wide lockup as an orientation like this, or that icon on a hat or on t-shirts. showing how this can live in the real world, even showing it with some colorful banners that could line downtown, or a house flag that could be put and hung out on the some of the businesses that you all have there that already fly these flags. What could this look like there? And then showing a few of them running down Main Street and or the Main Street. And so, again, this is part of a toolkit that all of these organizations can use. It is not meant to replace anybody's identity or supplant anybody's efforts. It's really just whenever we talk about visitors coming to the community, we want them to have a destination that we can all tell this story about. And so here you can see a couple different configurations, whether it's downtown or historic or just Urbana, Virginia. And this can help be, it can be put into promotional materials, marketing materials, signage, as you'll see in a moment. But then another thing I wanted to do while I was there on site, and I started noticing as we drove around that we had all of these T signs. And as an outsider, I didn't understand what those T's were. I didn't know if it was a buried telephone line or what they necessarily stood for, because there wasn't much of an explanation and context there. But it made sense as soon as somebody told me about the trolley. It added up really quick and really, made sense. And I thought it was really impressive that Urbana has this trolley system and this network of stops that is more robust than many communities much larger your size. So I thought it was really impressive that you all have that. But I wanted to show what it could look like taking the updated brands that have been done for Urbana and the Business Association and Main Street and use those typefaces and use those colors and just do a real simple update to this. And you'll see this reflected in some of the signage coming up here in just a moment. So moving into what our actual scope of this project was is the wayfinding. And the first step of doing a wayfinding plan is looking at existing conditions and looking at what you're doing right, what's might need some updating, and where we need to improve. And one of the first things I saw coming into the town was your gateway signs, which I think are beautiful. And I love the fact that it plays into a lot of the piers and the marina and sort of that waterfront architecture. And so I wanted to pull that inspiration from these signs into the updated system so it's cohesive and it feels like it's all part of the same system. Something else you all are doing already is this Museum on the Streets initiative, where you've got these maps in and around the community, and they're showing these points of interest, and they're telling about the history of the community and community members and events and locations, and a really cool concept. But I love the idea that you're already introducing these maps to your visitors and your residents and helping educate them. And as I mentioned, this is one of those locations of the trolley sign. It's got the QR code on there so you can scan it and learn more. But we've got, a lot of signs here already in a small park that are, trying to inform people and orient them about their location. And then we've got more trolley signs, and again, these are in great spots for the either the visitors or the short-term rentals. This network of trolley stops is really important and was the foundation to it. But you can also see this isn't a very welcoming or attractive spot to necessarily stand with high voltage and signs and caution signs and all. So that's something we want to be mindful of as we look at sign placement. And then a couple other signs here. Again, nice bench to sit and wait. And then another one that just happens to have a red arrow that I'm not quite sure if that means the trolley stop is across the street or, what that means in context of this, or was that for a sign that was above that was removed or damaged or whatever reason. So these are the things that we really want to document while we're on the ground and looking through this system, and what improvements we can make is showing the location of existing signs, but also ones that we can show how we can improve those. So that starts to lean into the mapping. And as I mentioned with the gateways, this is sort of the experiential graphic of how people experience a wayfinding system, from the community boundaries where they see a gateway welcoming them into the community. Then they come across high speed or low speed trailblazers, depending on the speed of the road that they're on. And then banners help traffic calming. They help reinforce that sense of arrival, that sense of place. They can also be used for event promotion or districting or creating awareness along different corridors that people might not be aware has more to offer or other assets. And then parking signs and pedestrian cyclist signs. And so with Urbana, looking at the network that, this is the whole DOT sort of road network that was the first, just kind of putting everything on the board to look at it. We narrowed it down into, just these primary corridors you see here of Town Bridge Road, Virginia, and I'm drawing a blank on the other street name. But these are the primary ingress routes into the community. So this is where we're going to start looking at what our destinations are as well. So we put all that on the map, and some of these destinations we wanted to include on the map as part of the discussion, even though they might not make it onto vehicular signs because they don't meet certain criteria established in the federal MUTCD guidelines, which is the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices. And so, but we wanted to include them, let people know that they're part of the conversation and they may find their way into the pedestrian signage, but not necessarily the vehicular signage. And so, it's really interesting considering, Urbana's size, and you've really got, 2.5 main ways in. You've got one directly from the west with another one sort of from the southwest coming in, joining there, and then one from the south, one route coming in. And so that creates sort of our decision points. And so as far as vehicular signage goes, it's a very small and manageable system because you can see here, if you're driving in via a car, there's not really a lot of directional signage that we're looking at. And so these will mostly be pointing to our downtown as, our primary destination, with the marina, with the parks, with Waterman's at the top in the town park there, off of, drawing a blank on the road name again. I got it covered up by the green line. But, so these are our decision points. These are where we're going to be putting our vehicular signs. But then we get into what I feel is going to be the more effective sign system for Urbana, which is the pedestrian sign system. And this map might look familiar to you if you've been involved or looked at the trolley map, because basically I took what the efforts you all were already doing with the trolley map, and assuming that over the years of utilizing that, you've refined these locations down to the places where a lot of your visitors are using these, or a lot of your locals are using the trolley just to get around during the busy season. These are where we already have signs. There's an expectation of that information there at some of these destinations. And so I just use that as the basis. I think there might be one or two extra locations on here that I added that weren't part of the network. But really, you all did a lot of the work for me as far as this map goes. And what Sarah Jane and Megan and I are going to be working on in the next week or so is having a work session and defining which sign type goes at each of these locations. And so you'll see those sign types now as I move into the wayfinding signage itself. And as I mentioned, I was very inspired by the marina and the waterfront and your gateway signs to come up with a simple sign system that uses those poles, those sort of pier poles, that also are going to make this a more affordable system to implement, because wood is cheaper than metal and it already is more breakaway by nature of wood. And so I think that's going to help keep the overall budget of this system more manageable, because you're not having to pour footers and do breakaways and put these signs, in with metal poles in the ground, that they're going to be much more manageable. But you can see here the 4 primary sign types: the vehicular sign on the left, and then we've just got a standalone trolley sign. We've got a small map kiosk and then a larger map kiosk, and zoom in on those in this next slide here. And you can see where we've updated a simple update to the trolley identity, so it's a little bit more descriptive for these signs. So at a glance, people understand that it's part of the trolley network. The QR code is there. And then we're showing a walking map for certain locations. The one on the left or in the middle, you can see is located at Waterman Park. So it shows roughly how far you can walk in just a few minutes, so you can get close to town. And I need to work on the scale of that. That's one of the other refinements I'll be making. And then on the right, you see another concept that we're discussing about doing more of a business directory style. And this builds on the efforts of the Business Association and Main Street of sort of categorizing the businesses that are in Urbana and putting them on a map. So, everybody can kind of participate in this directory, and we don't necessarily have to decide who is allowed on a sign or who not. We just kind of update this on maybe an annual or semi-annual basis. And you'll see on this map as well, if I zoom in here a little bit, there's this icon system for some of the destinations that kind of play into these map pointers. And we've got the trolley network, we've got the information for the visitor center, we've got the kayak for the kayak launch. And I think this map got bumped out at some point because these are all feel like just a little bit out of alignment, but it's still a draft form. But so even putting the swimming pool on there, that was another one of the assets that I created through designing this map. Is you've got this vector map so we can scale it and we can reconfigure things if we need to, or we can color code different business types if we wanted to get that detailed. And then with the icon system you see up there, that can be built out as well as when new assets come online or things change around. And so here we can see the before and after. On the left-hand side, we see a couple of different signs. They're put in, they're all important. They convey important information, but we can consolidate those and we can create, just a cleaner presentation that has all the same information on people or for people, but only, just on those two posts instead of, more posts we've got to put in the ground and maintain. And then another update for the one there at Cross and Virginia as well. Again, taking the same location, but just updating the content, adding a pole in the ground, putting this new panel in the middle with the map that can be updated. And you see also in there the new brand for the community. And one subtle little detail I thought was kind of funny as I was designing these, you'll notice the little notches in the corner of these sign panels. Those are actually called scallops. And so I just thought it was kind of funny that the corners of the signs have scallops in them and the logo has a scallop inspired shell in it. So it was just a nice little nod I wanted to make sure I include in there as well. And so then looking at some of the other signs we might consider for Urbana is you all don't technically have like a municipally owned parking lot. So we're not going to look necessarily at public parking signs, but maybe some temporary parking signs for some of your larger event weekends, and just including, maybe a mobile trolley stop as well. So people can park and they can walk to this trolley spot so they can get shuttled around the community as well. So that was just another idea I wanted to put on the table. And so there is sort of a collection of all the elements that were created for, through this project so far. And we still have a little bit more work to do as far as making some refinements and getting a little bit more specific about sign types and their specific locations. But that's where we are today. And again, I'm really proud of the work we were able to put together and really appreciate the hospitality of Main Street and the community while I was there, and really looking forward to continuing to work on this.
One thing I do want to say is our original grant is for pedestrian signs. So that will be phase one, and Megan and I will be working on another grant to Virginia Main Street to add some additional pedestrian signs and perhaps some vehicular signs. And we can even go to a phase three that would be more of a billboard type of thing out on the larger roads, guiding people in. But it's a system that can grow and change, like the map. The way that Sean is going to design those, we will be able to change those out for the businesses and things fairly easily and inexpensive. So we will be coordinating this and the grant will pay for this, but the town has said we'll own the sign.
And we will maintain them.
And Main Street will maintain.
Where do we get a T-shirt?
Yeah, we can get, we're gonna be selling them too.
All right.
We'll do have stickers. Any other questions?
I just had a comment to make, and I know this makes some people mad, but I think the logo is great. However, I look at that logo and I see sand blades or a flower and water, and I feel like Urbanna is known for oysters. There's the oyster festival. We are oysters, and that's what everybody knows us as. So I just feel like there should be an oyster there instead of what looks like a flower. That's my opinion. That's it. Sorry. And this is something that's going on signs, and it's going to be, hopefully, it'll just get bigger in the future. And I just feel like we are oysters, and that's people. I look at that and it confuses me. I don't understand it. So
That's very valid feedback and a criticism of it. And it's actually one of the discussions that we had during my first presentation of this internally to the team. And I totally understand that. And it was a concern of mine as I was putting this design together. And again, it being outside of the scope, it was like an exercise that I just had to kind of process and get out of my own head, because I would have felt like I'd let the community down if I didn't do my, give it a shot to put this out there. And my thought process behind it was understanding the importance of the Oyster Fest. I worried that if we just did an oyster for the logo, one thing is oyster shells aren't terribly photogenic or attractive is one issue. So as a designer, that's sort of where I started. But also, I'm worried about making Urbana appear too much like a one-trick pony, that so many people come there for the Oyster Festival that I worried that if we made the oyster the logo of Urbana, that's all you would be known for. And so I was hoping to help tell a broader story and, have a little, pique people's interest about, like, if they're known for oysters, why are they using this? And, sometimes creating that interest in people and making them ask a question kind of lets a broader story be told about the community. And so that was sort of my thought process about using the historic Chesapeake and Jeffersonist shell as being able to tell just as much about the connectivity to the water and the history and going, further back. So that was kind of my inspiration behind that.
And with branding, we are trying to create something new and a new energy. And yes, Urbanna is known for oysters, and we're certainly not abandoning that in any way, shape, or form. But it's like when we were designing the Main Street logo, and we did use the scallop shell that is, prevalent here, but it's sort of the vessel that holds all the history. And we're more than oysters. I mean, we have colonial history, we have Native American history, we have our watermen's, the thriving business that was here for so long. But there is a lot of things, and this is something that holds it all. And it is something new, and it's people be like, wow, that's different for Urbana. Maybe we'll go check it out. Maybe it's more than what I just thought it was. It gives us something to talk about. It gives us something to explain. I don't know.
we need something to talk about.
Yeah. in terms of why did they choose that? Well, here is the story, and it's more of a story of who we are than just an oyster.
When I first looked at it, I wasn't very familiar with scallop. Scallops.
Not many
I
people
thought of
are.
that as a sunrise or sunset. I mean, it has multiple.
Yeah. And Sean did stay at the condos at Queen Anne's Cove, and his view every day was the sunrise at the North Bridge, and it's so beautiful every day. I mean, you post it, and that is a big part of who we are as well. And the oyster's important, but we're more than the oysters. We're a lot of things.
What I like about it, it brings attention to a shell that's billions of years old.
Well,
And they're right here in Urbana Creek.
my cousin's a geologist. The shells are older than the Grand Canyon.
So that's a lot of history. I enough one of my
It's a
volunteers
form
brought
of
one of the
preservation.
shells to work last night.
Oh,
And that's why I think it's so weird. She brought a
Well-
shell to show the kids. She showed me a picture of how long they go. So when I saw him doing that, I was like, that came to my work last night. So I like
Nobody may know it, but the first page, second page in Signatures of Time, which is a full page, in the history of Middlesex County, has a scholarship. It's a big deal.
You gotta see a scholarship shell there.
It's,
And now that I know, but I see a sunrise, but that's what's important about
And
it. is that everybody
I
can see
know
something
sunrise.
different.
But it's attention getting, which is the point, and when you see that, like on a billboard on 33, it's, once we eventually get there, that's gonna grab your attention and say, oh, I wanna go and see what this town is all about, and that's what we're trying to do. Our main industry now is tourism, and to drive more people here, and to enhance our sound system so that it, I think it looks amazing.
maybe we
Yeah, I
can
think
get
it looks great too.
I do
It's great. I just
appreciate
think our brand is always.
I do appreciate your opinion.
Yeah, thank you.
I do. I mean, I really do. Like, it's obvious that we are a little oyster town. And, we really don't want to take away from that. And we needed to have this conversation because everyone is going to say that. Everyone said that when I made the Urbanna Main Street logo. So it's important. I value that opinion. We really don't want to take away from it. We just want this, really clean, new, bright, thing for people who are driving in for the first time to see and know that, we've got our, what's together. We're just trying, we're trying to brighten, we're trying to clean, we're trying to.
I love the work you love.
Express. So,
It's great.
Yeah.
No, I'll go with anything. That's just my opinion. I feel like our brand.
Yeah. And they obviously discussed it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I love the oyster on the Waterman sign. That's a great looking oyster. Anyway, that's enough. Too many t-shirts and things done, stickers, sorry.
All right. So, moving on. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
take care.
Mr. Mayor,
You do the same. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to act on that sample motion, which basically would just authorize staff to work up a MOU, which would come back to council?
Yes, I think that's appropriate. And so, as we said, the signs are going to be owned by the town I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but they're being funded by and maintained by the Urbana Main Street. And so we need a memorandum of understanding that establishes that relationship. And that's what the motion before you is. And there's a sample motion there if someone would like to read it.
I so move. I move to authorize the town administrator to engage with the engineering firm. Oh, wrong one. We switched. Thank you. I move to direct the staff to develop a memorandum of understanding as appropriate to consider the wayfinding town signs with the installation and maintenance, the responsibility of Urbanna Main Street.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Moving on. Okay.
Different spin right here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I really think a lot of the background information I covered in the earlier discussion regarding the administrative report about receiving the grant and what it can be used for and everything. So that's an update. We have heard about that grant. We have not heard from the one sought through Representative Living's office. And I have told you that the General Assembly did not fund. I would say the most recent update is, I guess, with activity picking up, speed changing. We are getting some complaints about the lack of access, parking, difficulty servicing Marina and boaters. This could potentially lead to some lost revenue, short term and long term. And we're also having to look at, putting some other events aside. We had the July 4th boat parade is probably in jeopardy now, as all the approaches about a Christmas themed opportunity, and I wasn't able to say we'll be where we'll be come December, that we could use the marina or not. I also want to take a moment and again talk about the $4.4 million estimate. You have to please remember we had a very, very narrow window between finding out the bridge had to be closed and trying to get some money out of the General Assembly. So WRA worked up a very comprehensive, very thorough an estimate of what it would cost. And there were some things in there that, we now know, okay, you went too far. We don't own the road. We don't have to go all the way back to Virginia Street. We just need to focus on here. So that price tag will come down, but we had to have some numbers to get part of Delegate Hodges, and those same numbers are what went to Representative Whitman's office. So we had to have a starting point. Okay. So I understand this evening we've received you have at your place. Mayor was able to secure another opinion, and Councilman Wilson has brought in gentleman Mr. Evans, who will come present on the package that we were able to get out to you on earlier this week. Unless you have any questions for me, I think it's presentation time.
How much did they ask for on that $450,000?
$450,000. We got the whole pot for Virginia.
Wow.
Nobody else got anything else.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've only known of one other grant program to award everything they had to one project in one location.
Wow.
And that was the Newport Comfort Lighthouse. I wrote that grant. Too late. 2 for 2.
So would you like me to introduce some Chase?
Sure.
Everybody, so I saw the packet with the WRA proposal. We shop around for everything. We really try hard to watch our pennies here. So I reached out to a local general contractor and I said, hey, I know you're not an engineer, but who would you recommend? I've never met Chase before. He came over, took a look. I've reached out to a couple others too, and but 2 weeks later, he sent me this proposal. This will say that he's been very responsive as far as answering questions, putting this together. And I ran my own business for a long time, and usually when someone does a good job of quoting, that's a good sign that they'll do a good job working things. Anyway, I'll let him introduce himself further, but just want you to take a look at this. I think it's reasonable, but obviously this grant that has come out, which is excellent news, changes the picture a little bit. So.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, of course.
First off, congratulations on the grant. That's huge. Not business related necessarily, but just as a background regarding myself, I actually am the chairman of the school board at West Point and the chairman of the Bridging Communities, the Career and Technical Schools in New Kent. All that being said is that my father-in-law, hometown council at West Point, I understand small town dynamics, and when you're in a position you've gotten a grant, that's fantastic. Because it's so hard to stretch dollars. Our background is that we are a commercial general contractor. We're based out of Sanson, live in West Point, as I mentioned. But really kind of who we are as a contractor, and I'll explain why I'm telling you this here in a minute, is that we kind of view ourselves as being a consultant first and a contractor second. So what that means is that we really look at a design build process in kind of a new approach. We call it integrated project work. We kind of birthed this out of actually helping churches. So where I'm giving you this backstory, and I'll make it applicable here in a second, is that you have to understand kind of what you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, and what can you actually afford to get it done. I'm sure at least some folks in here, hopefully most of you, go to church, so you understand there's only so many times you can pass the plate. Small town politics and economics works kind of the same way. So all that being said is that our approach to this project, we took a very, very similar mindset to it. Is that I saw that obviously you had an issue, came with the bridge. So I reached out to design professionals we worked with, and what we were presenting and proposing here was that the town council, whoever they felt would be best fit, would be part of a team alongside those design professionals. And what you would do too, in the last page of that, presentation actually kind of has the timeline that you walk through. But what you would do is you would start kind of unpacking and attacking this problem of the failing bridge. I think maybe Ms. Hampton might have mentioned that, one of the issues is you don't really know why the bridge is failing, what it's causing it to fail. So there's a couple pieces to kind of unpack that. One of the first things you would need to do is have a geotechnical study done. And that exercise, what they do is it's a soil boring. They drill down and you understand kind of what the soil profile is. It evaluates the structural capacity. It kind of tells you what you're working. You start there. You then do what's called hydraulic analysis. So what that's looking at is what's your floodplain, what's your tidal changes. That really is telling you what are the tides, what are the waves, what are these surges of big heavy floods doing to that shoreline. Those two pieces of the puzzle will tell you what the soils are, what you're dealing with, and what the water that hits it does to that. So it may be that it was the right foundation for the bridge previously to deal with it for that type of soil and that type of water. Those two pieces of information get you enough information that a structural engineer can then start designing the pilings and the abutments that a bridge would sit on. So that's why you kind of see that next piece of it is that structural engineering is getting engaged. They start to design what the bridge would sit on. Meanwhile, if you've made a selection of what type of bridge you want, that bridge engineer is designing the load, how heavy it's going to be, what it's going to weigh down on those abutments. That becomes part of the structural engineering. You kind of see this as sort of a progressive process. The reason I'm explaining all this is twofold. Again, I'm super excited that you guys got the grant. I'm kind of breaking this down in chunks because what we like to do is I like to educate as much as I like to build. So I want you to know as much as you can. So wherever you end up in this process, you can ask good questions. Whoever you end up with, wherever you end up with this process, I just encourage you, be an advocate for yourself, be an advocate for the town, be an advocate for the people that you represent. Ask questions, push to get answers. You've got that right, you've got that ability. So as you kind of go through that process, there will be some things that you should have put in front of you as far as your options for the bridge, what the finishes would be for it. One of the things that I think Mr. Wilson and I talked about was VDOT and how that interfaces with the town. This approach, and I definitely recommend, however, again, you shake out with it, kind of paraphrasing, pivoting this grant information. Is that I would recommend that you look at this bridge from a perspective of it doesn't necessarily have to be a VDOT bridge unless the grant tells you it has to be. But make sure you design it, that it can be adopted into being a VDOT bridge down the road. What that means is that essentially the specifications, the loading, and the capacities need to meet VDOT's requirements, and there will be third-party inspections that have to happen during the process, but it won't immediately be adopted into being a VDOT bridge. So it's something that can be adopted into VDOT system later. What else I want to make sure I tell you guys? This approach that you have, and again, more than welcome to ask whatever questions you want, was a prefabricated steel bridge. So what this would be is that it's about midway through this cut section. Yeah, there's some example photos too, but fourth page, third and fourth page. There'll be some sort of photo examples. Oh, there we go. So it's steel beam, girders in between, and then steel rail and it's a guardrail system. And the way that one is designed, I might have mentioned that, I think Mr. Mary might have mentioned it, contact with the manufacturer that was going to be designing the bridge. That's actually a plate system that goes on top of the bridges. In this bridge, you kind of have flexibility where whatever the finished surface is, you can do it. If you wanted to, you can do it with gravel, but asphalt, concrete, you got some options for what you top it with. Usually they're kind of a domed concrete finish to it, but it gives you some flexibility with it. One of the things you guys have talked about tonight a lot and picked up on was time. You go all the way, I don't know that you actually got that slide, is the timetable things. No, you have it. Okay. Council members, you have it in front of you.
think the very last page has
Yep, the very last page.
And have
the time.
chart.
Yep, the flow chart, yeah, sorry. But
It is a minute.
I just want to, this is the print one, I don't think it made it to this one.
Oh, okay.
One thing I just wanted to point out is that this is a process. This is a process no matter who you go with, because there is elements that we kind of touched on, figuring out the soils, figuring out the structural engineering, figuring out the bridge engineering, outside of construction, just the design and permitting process. One of the biggest things that you'll see down at the bottom of that is that this will go through a joint permit application process that involves Army Corps, BMRC, and I don't know if you guys have a local wetlands board or not, but local wetlands approval. That's usually the longest process. And that's also why it's a 6 to 8 months. But that whole process, start to finish, I mean, you can add it up. It's about a year for a design and permitting process. So, and that has,
The no building, just design and
man,
permitting.
that's just design. And I hate to be the one that tells you that, because nobody ever likes to hear that, but
Right,
that's
thank
something
you.
that no matter whoever's involved, it's not.
So you're basically saying it'd be, if we started today, it'd be a year before we could expand the ground.
Even for a temporary bridge.
Temporary bridge would be a different process, but one thing I do want to caution you again, this is just perspective of advice, is just trying to give you worst advice is advice, but I know small towns are always concerned about liability. Temporary bridge, if you were going to take it from an approach of liability, you would still want to have DDOT input on it, so it still needs to come with an engineered solution. DDOT plus. One of the other things that you need to decide there too, if you went with a temporary approach, is you need to define a duration. How they evaluate it is going to be dependent on whether you're telling them 6 months or 6 years. Those solutions are very, very different. There's some that I'm sure you guys can look it up online, that there's bridges that the military uses to run tanks across. And logging companies have got solutions that obviously have the capacity to handle what you guys are talking about, but DDOT may not sign off on. So that will still take time. But I know in a perfect world, I could snap my fingers and give you guys a bridge before the Oyster Festival. Do that. Nice to see you.
Great.
Yeah.
Is this a permanent bridge here?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So the way that this was put together was essentially it would be a longer bridge than what's there currently. You would excavate, more than likely be driven piles, probably driven concrete piles, a concrete footer, concrete abutments, and then it's a designed steel bridge that essentially gets set into those abutments, bolted down, and then you top it with whatever concrete asphalt finish you want.
Can you give any kind of a price? I mean, I see this little
Not really. I mean, I think
ballpark.
I think Mr. Mayor, I think Mr. Wilson may have some pricing on the actual steel bridge piece of it. The variable for it is that whatever's underneath, what you're going to start with. Is it depending on the soils? I mean, it could be 20-foot pilings, it could be 8-foot pilings. Those are substantially different in price, and it could be 12 piles, it could be 40 piles.
We want the 20-foot.
Yeah, again, magic snap fingers.
It's good, and that's what what's his name from WRA said that routinely around here it's 80-foot pilings.
No.
Jeremy Slauson.
Yeah.
What's the engineering cost?
For all aspects of it, it's actually broken down.
$100,000.
Yeah, I mean, not counting, I think my piece was 15 grand, so total minus that.
So you just deal with the permits, the design.
Correct.
You just do everything, but you don't actually put the bridge.
No, we've done that too. And we've actually installed bridges as well in the past.
So if you put this bridge in, and the design and permitting is 100,000, then, I mean, are you talking another 100 or 400 for this, or?
To
to
build
actually
that
put the
bridge,
bridge in?
oh man, I hate to tell you, this probably a seven figure at least.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Over $1 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Chase, any chance that we could go bridgeless, that we could do culverts, some sort of culverting?
You mean like a box culvert bridge?
Yeah, yeah, anything that's not to serve?
Maybe. If it's something you had a lot of weight actually to it.
At what point in the design process would you know? After the hydraulic analysis?
Yep, after you did the soils and the hydraulic analysis.
See if you could set a box culvert and if it could handle the flow through there.
Yep, so at that point, you would want to have that conversation. Again, however this shakes out, with the structural engineering team, saying, hey guys, I want to look at a good, better, best, or an ABC option here, with this data in mind, what solutions can you give me as far as the good, better, best?
That wouldn't buy us anything on our timeline, but long term.
No, and it wouldn't necessarily buy anything on your timeline, but it may buy you some price tag.
Has VMRC looked at anything like that before?
What's that?
A culvert type situation like he's talking.
I know they've installed them as vehicular bridges. Yeah, I know this is a little unconventional, but again, this is what we do with all of our clients.
Right.
No, it's
It's
shake
really
your own.
helpful. Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah, and again, I'm shakes out. Yeah, I'm happy to help you guys however I can. Obviously, I can't be a new staff member, but I'm more than happy to help Mr. Wilson, Mr. Mayor, whoever. If you guys, 6 months from now, have a question, you don't feel like you're getting an answer, you feel like you get a straightforward answer out, pretty calm. 30 minutes down the road.
Thank you. And the bottom line is something that's a repetitive theme is we need some engineering before we move forward.
You do. You have to do a little homework first. The geotech is one of the first steps, and that was not actually priced in this. And that actually intentional. That's one of our policies. So most of the firms that would do the geotechnical investigation, the soil borings that I talked about to evaluate soil capacity, are usually also the firms that you retain for doing third-party special inspections. So those are also the firms that would be doing inspections of the rebar and the concrete floors, that kind of thing, as the construction is going on. The reason that we leave that out is that if there was ever a question of, was the rebar put in the right place? Did they use the right concrete mix? I don't want it to ever perceive like a conflict of interest, so I don't ever hire them. That's why I always recommend the owner hire them, because essentially it's your insurance policy. So, but that being said, ECS is a good firm that's not, they're in this area, they've done it before. Bill's Carnes is another one that's in this area that's done it before. Schnabel in this area, and they've done it before, but I'm more than happy to give you guys names, contacts for all that.
Do you have any idea what that would run?
Like the special inspections?
The
Geotech.
I guess it's only 15 to 25K. So, yeah.
I guess it's more of a point than a question. I think when I explained this to everybody, I said that we would be hiring these individual firms. So this is a little bit of an unusual quote in that he's given out the letters of engagement. Everybody shopped out.
Yeah, I apologize for any confusion on that.
I had told everybody that we would be hiring them, but that's not true.
No. How we normally do this is that, again, with all of our projects, you guys would hire us. This is a football team, y'all are the owners, like the head coach. Use an analogy. But and I appreciate Mr. Wilson speaking for me. I was out of country, so I couldn't come. Thankfully, my wife stuck with me for 20 years, so we took a trip. But the intention would be that you guys would hire one point of contact. And the reason that, again, I find it confusing, but it was included with every design group's full proposal, it's just we're transparency. We approach all our projects with 100% transparency. So we just believe that if you guys trust us, and we trust you, then why not? So.
Where'd you go on your trip?
Italy.
Wow.
We started in Venice, then we went to Florence, then Bologna, and then Rome.
Nice.
Spent that. Hopefully, I'll get at least another 20 years. You guys have any questions? I know I kind of breezed through that, but that
No, thank you so much.
That's good. And it was good information just in general, especially, I'm sorry to say the timeline.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Well, again, at any point, if you got questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, may I offer a comment?
Yes.
And, I would highly recommend him. He's very detail oriented, he's very thorough. He sort of looks at all moving parts. And he also does understand small communities. He has a very collaborative style that I think would be welcomed by you all. And I just wanted to share those thoughts and experiences. Thank you.
Okay. I think we gotta see what the grant does.
Yeah.
Or since we're looking for a permanent solution, that could go a long way to doing the pre-engineering studies and that kind of stuff. Might be able to use the money for that.
Right.
Yeah, we'd be crazy not to take advantage of that grant.
Right.
$100,000 in pre-engineering is a whole lot easier to swallow than some of the other numbers you've heard. Oh. The grant just slows us down a little bit as far as making a decision.
Right. And that came in actually after you were scheduled to talk to them.
Yeah, I'm happy for you guys.
Fantastic.
All right.
I think that we were told we would know about that grant in, I think it was December.
Yeah, because you mentioned it, kept saying you had everything.
Yeah.
Monday when I saw you.
Okay.
Bell box prepared for both?
Please.
All right. I thought, mentioned this earlier, at your last regular meeting, I advised that I reached out to Hampton Road Sanitation District, got that paid and manhole covered. Learning that they were beginning work this month, which I think a lot of people have already seen, they have already started. We saw an opportunity to get several paved over water valves uncovered. HRSD advised their selected contractor was the most competitive and a proposal was sought and obtained. The final proposal version is before you. The Water Committee considered this project and supports noting some valves be uncovered this fiscal year, others next fiscal year, which would be after July 1, and it may be necessary to uncover others in FY 27-28. The fiscal impact is $3,900 per location. Proposed 4 locations this year, or this current budget year, next current budget year, and then 4 after that. Now, if you read through the proposal, there is some uncertainty in the exact location of valve covers, depth, and condition. As a result, the actual cost may exceed the estimate. Staff recommendations to authorize town administrator to accept the proposal and a sample motion there to accomplish that. I'd be happy to take any questions, but Mr. Wilson had a conversation this week with him, and I don't want to take words out of your mouth.
Because we've got the reimbursement. So out of the, I'm putting all that stuff here, out of the distribution system upgrade line item out of the water system, we were going to pay for the well house repair. That was $27,000. So that money we didn't have to spend because we're not getting reimbursed for EPA. So instead of splitting this across 2 fiscal years, we have the money if we just want to take and knock this thing out all at once. I don't know, that's not saving us anything, right? But it just speed it up. And that would be useful, I guess. We have a water leak in one segment.
Well, last night, there was a water leak at the fire station, and all the way down to Miss Justice's house was cut off. So there was, because the intermittent valves are not accessible. Now, there's also the issue. I'm not going to say it. Once we uncover all these valves and we can access them, doesn't mean that we might not have to knock out large sections because not all of our system is looped. So when you loop the system, you cut off one valve and the water comes in from a different direction. So that may still be an issue, but this will minimize the probability of having a large impact or a little trickle of water at one end of the tank that comes all the way down to the other end. I don't know if you all were cut off.
I got the call, but I don't know that I was cut off.
It was helpful, it's so helpful to get the call.
Yeah.
You know, to be able to fill up your jug, 10 minutes, you know.
Oh, I know, but it was good.
Yeah.
And what would be nice is people would take the call, fill up their jugs and not call us and say, why are you calling me? We get a lot of that, don't we, Michelle?
Oh, my God. Well, I will say, I got a call, I got a text or a call at 1:30 or 2.
Mhm.
And when I got home at 6, my water was still on.
Yeah, it was on
But
for
the
quite a
thing
while.
said it would be off for 10 to 15 minutes.
Well, what happened?
No, it said it was going off.
It was going
Yeah, 10
going off
or 15
at
minutes.
10.
Okay, I didn't read it correctly.
I know, I read it that
And it
way
would be
first, too.
repaired as quickly as possible.
I didn't care.
When I left yesterday about 4:30, I stopped by the hole, talked to the guys, and they said, oh, it'll be another 10, 15 minutes. They were putting the sleeve on right then, and I got into Richmond. Beth called and said, when are they gonna have the water? So I called Steve, and Steve told me that, well, when they put the sleeve on, it changed the pressure, and the line cracked further down. So they had to do it again. So,
Real quick, get back to me, thank you.
could have been faster, but I don't know.
It's coming out of water.
It'd be coming out of water.
Yeah,
It's kind of like-
Distribution system upgrades, and honestly, make it, be able to get through a valve sounds like an upgrade.
Yeah.
Feels like it needs this.
And Mr. Coxon did check with VDOT because they're the ones that buried the valve.
Yeah.
And they said, basically, you know, you guys put them in our roadway, so if you want to move them, then that's at your expense, pretty much.
I mean, it's things that we have to spend this
What is
money.
wrong with those people?
I don't know.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep.
And we have the money to cover it.
Right, we do, we
It just
typically,
makes sense.
Do we have to vote on it?
We do for authorization.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Individually, I could assign it, but when you're looking at the totality, it needs to be council.
All right, so I got a sample motion.
okay, do we want to make a motion to do the whole thing at once and vote on that?
I think so.
I think
This,
so,
this
too.
motion is for
We
the
have to-
half and half, right?
No.
Do we have the money for the whole thing?
We do, and with the money, the reason we suddenly have the money for the whole thing is because we got.
Right, so we need to,
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
This only, the motion is basically across, I was just kind of
Yeah,
reporting
it
what the
doesn't say
plan was
just
going to
the
be.
first part.
But if you all want to change the plan, and we tell them, hey, we'll get them all.
Do 'em.
We
Yeah.
can talk,
Yeah.
but you don't
Yeah.
see, any impact. I'll give you final word. You don't see any reason not to go ahead and do it. We have the money. If we say go ahead.
I would say let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
For the simple reason that, you know, we're going to have last night happen again and again and again, and not be able to shut it off.
Well, you also have some economy of having people doing the same kind of process at the same time instead of having to come back out, and get back in here.
I will say, when I talked to Ted the other day, I was like, see if you can, weasel them down by giving them the whole.
Ooh,
But,
yeah.
well, except this is a hat number, see what you
and this is the same company that's in town
Right
uncovering
now, yeah.
HRC. Yep.
If y'all do this, I'm gonna sign it, fax it to them, or scan it, and get it to them tomorrow, and say, hey, while you're here, it's Metro contract.
volume discount, we got.
All right.
Andrea, have a revised motion for it?
Well, the motion actually would read the same.
Yeah. I think, okay.
Yeah.
Again, the motion was a blanket to get the whole thing done.
Okay.
The
So it
the
doesn't
proposed
keep it out.
impact
Was to spread it,
It was
yes.
spread, but if you don't want to spread.
So the
that's
motion
fine.
doesn't change.
Well, okay, that's totally. Actually, the proposal was just for the first part.
The proposal is for each.
That is for each.
Oh, each valve, okay,
Each
got
valve.
it, got it, thanks.
Yes.
Okay,
So can we put a cap on it and say, hey, if you guys are starting to do $100,000, things like this stop?
When the $30,000
runs out. but
You can
call
add
them
a not to exceed amount.
And they can call.
to the
or at
motion.
least let us
We
know.
can look at that, yeah. Come back after, if they get to that point, they can come back.
Yeah.
So if we did it not to exceed amount, it would be $31,200, right? 15, 6 times 2.
I think we should up it from that to give a little latitude without having to stop everything if it's 500 more than that or
35,000.
1,000
Well,
more
I think
than
it's
that.
35.
Yep, 35,000.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, sample motion here. I move the town administrator to be authorized to accept proposals and to contractors incorporated to uncover and adjust to grade height water level covered as determined by staff.
And that the,
Not to
And
exceed.
a not to exceed amount of $35,000 without additional approval
from the council.
from the council.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, Mr. Chunick,
Yes.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes.
I say yes. Mary Hanson?
Yeah.
Beth Justice? Bobby Wolfens? All right.
Okay, the VDOT lane, we're really talking about the same issue. For each time that we open the asphalt, we would have to bond with VDOT, okay? However, they have another option, which is this resolution, which basically says, every time we open a hole, if there's a problem, our insurance company will take care of it. Okay, so we already have the insurance in place. The insurance company's already looked at this. They said it's fine. Attorneys looked at it, good. Water committee supports it. It basically saves us having to go and bond and bond and bond because we got one insurance company. How much do bonds cost? I didn't even ask what a bond, bonds on a construction project in a VDOT right of way.
But it's the time.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to keep going.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what have we done in the past? This is new, right? This is renewal.
We haven't opened up these valves in the past. Well, not,
That's why they're communicating.
Not in recent history, we probably just did it without permission.
50
Yeah.
years.
My bad.
Yeah.
I can, if you want
No.
to go.
More of a curiosity question.
Curiosity, after the fact.
Yes.
Does it cost anything extra on our insurance? Is there any physical impact?
Or these valves that VDOT paved over.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the way to do it.
Are they charging us to cover their mistakes?
They're not charging us, we're having to pay.
We have to do it on our dime.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. And that was,
Well, that's the same thing, isn't it?
no, because we're not paying them.
Okay, run this one by.
Okay.
We're paying for the
You've
repair,
acted on
but we're
one,
not paying VDOT.
you've acted on a contract to uncover your valve. To do any work in the right of way, you have to have a permit. To get that permit, you have to put up a bond. This waives off the bond by having insurance.
Right. But you were going back to the previous thing of why we're having to pay to uncover valves that
That they
that
paid
VDOT
for.
covered over. That's what you want to know, right?
I don't even want to know the answer to that. She's gonna make me.
No wrong with it. No wrong with it.
So basically, in the aviation, I make myself a named insured on an airplane. Fly. Kind of the same concept, right?
Yeah.
Put VDOT on our
Yep.
insurance
Right.
policy, and named insured.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve resolution 2026-004 regarding land use permitting.
Do I have a second?
Second. Oh, take a line, take a line.
Moved and seconded.
So long.
This one's just Marjorie.
I know, I know, I know.
Motion.
I know.
Yeah. Any further discussion, Alana? Okay. Anyone else? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, moving on.
The next item is, the wooden pickle contract Since the current pool was operated, there was no snack shack operation the first year, intermittent operation last year. Interest was expressed by a local business to operate the snack shack. An RFP was issued to distribute all restaurants on the town's water system. One entity responded. Council directed staff to develop an agreement with Wooden Pickle in line with their proposal, noting special events to provide food and drink services at the Marshall Community Pool for the 2026 season. That document follows. The cost of the town would be related to additional utility demand for full-time operation of the snack shack, but with this business expanding to the pool, additional meals tax is anticipated. Staff recommendations to adopt the agreement as presented, which has been reviewed by the town attorney, and take that action. You have a draft motion in front of you. I'd be happy to take any questions you have at this time.
That's great.
I have one question. It actually came from Marjorie. She's not here. On number 4, her question was, is allowing the pool management company to use their refrigerators that have caused problems with the health department?
Yeah.
That was, I talked with the folks at the Wooden Pickle about the whole agreement. It said, any issues, any concerns, they did not.
Okay, very good. They're good with it. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All right, I think this is a great thing.
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay, I move to direct the town administrator to execute on behalf of the town the agreement presented this evening with the Wooden Pickle Cafe to provide food and drink services at the Marshall Community Pool for the 2026 season.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Can I ask about that? Is that renewable every year, or as long as they do good, they can continue to do it year after
This
year?
2026 season.
Yes.
Season. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So we'll revisit it again, I guess, next year.
I would say regardless of who it is, you want to see how it works out.
Yeah. And so do that. Yeah. All right. Motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on.
All right, Water Connect disconnected usage agreement with Aylet Country Day School for their property, which is identified by tax map. I think everybody knows they proposed a lot behind the bank or the Rappahannock. During this winter storm and ice storm, the town noted a significant leak. When warming, it was found to be on the property of the Aylet Country Day School located on Rappahannock. The water service was terminated and the owner notified. In calculating the amount due in credit for repair, it was discovered this was an unbilled vehicle. Staff researched the issue and discovered a verbal agreement had been reached that this user would be exempt from paying water bills as the 501c3 entity only used the property for water bills. No written agreement could be found by either party. The verbal agreement arrangement is significantly flawed. It should have, as presented now, been in writing and acted on by council in a public setting, has been, as we have done with the fire department, the rescue squad, and the library. A distinction can be made that this property is unimproved, whereas other 501c3 properties are improved and active on a regular basis. Now, in the agreement, please note that when the property is improved, the agreement is, as it's adopted, will become null and void. The fiscal impact is more favorable than the past practice, with the base amount being paid to cover the time of use. The amount to be paid far exceeds their historic water use even during the festival. It would also cover the turn on and turn off prior to the festival and then after the festival. Staff recommendation is to pass the agreement as presented. This was also before the water committee and they favorably agreed. I'd be happy to take any questions you have. You do have your sample motion.
So what are we doing this evening?
We're going to start billing them for water.
I hope so.
Yeah, they weren't paying, it was a meter that wasn't recorded to any particular owner, right?
And they said because they're a 501c3, they're exempt.
That's
Well,
apparently
That's apparently what.
Somebody gave them a pass at some point in the past, but no one can find any written agreement or anybody that will attest to the fact that they did it.
There's been a lot of that.
Okay, and so that being said, it was discovered because of the leak, and they did pay for for the water
They
that
have-
was associated with the leak, so.
They fixed the leak and they paid for the bill.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
What is our history of 501c3s? Does the Woman Club pay water? Does the
Everybody,
Baptist Church pay water?
everybody pays.
And that's one of the issues. It would be an equal protection issue if we didn't charge them something.
But the rest of it,
Yeah, exactly.
The distinction that we're making here is everybody else is up and running. They only come in for 2 or 3 days. So there's no improvement on the property. So we're charging them for the water that they draw.
you mean a minimum? Oh, just what
The
they
min-
use?
the minimum, the minimum for the period of time that they're operating.
Just the oyster.
Joyce Moisture Fest.
Yeah, well, that's more than fair.
Yeah.
And they were agreeable to it. They were,
Okay.
they were.
Okay, I move for council to adopt resolution 2026-005, water connect disconnect and usage agreement with, Inlet Country Day School for tax map 20A-18-E as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next.
It's a location relief. For several weeks, staff and the mayor have been working to secure town and surrounding environs for the filming of a Revolutionary War themed documentary produced by the Hampton History Museum Association. The effort has reached a point of granting formal permission to film on town property, specifically the Marina and Scottish Factor Store. Filming dates are targeted for May 12 through 14, but are weather permitted. Local businesses are already being approached to support the effort. Credit will be given to the town of Urbanna, Virginia, as a filming location, which could lead to other opportunities. There's minimal fiscal impact other than staff time to support this. The staff recommendation is to approve the location release, which has been drafted by the attorney. That's the council action. It would be the same to approve the release as drafted by the attorney. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have at this time.
I assume they have insurance. That's wonderful.
Any chance I can get shot on camera?
Sorry.
We can work
All
on
right,
that.
are you ready for your close-up?
I move to authorize the town administrator to execute the location release involving town properties with Hampton History Museum Association for the filming of a Revolutionary War themed documentary.
Do I have a second on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And I will note, well, that, those days, there's going to be gunfire, there's going to be cannon fire, so.
We hear this anyway.
All right, public comment number 2.
You got two.
Here he comes.
Mr. Mayo, 320 Rappahannock.
I read on the computer that we were supposed to discuss the price of water going up. The water committee, want to raise
No,
price of water?
it's going to be discussed, I think it's part of the budget process.
Part of the budget.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, the water committee did discuss that, yes.
well, I'm just going to say years ago, when people left in the wintertime to go home, water was cut off their homes. And when they came back, they cut it back on. Well, next door to me, I may use 10 gallons a month in that meter, and I'm still paying the maximum. I don't think it's right. Look at me, we can, no matter water we use, we pay for.
Right.
If you go over the maximum, you pay for. But if I don't use but 100 gallons a month, that's all I should pay for.
Well, right, but the minimum, you got to remember that minimum charge is part of a maintenance fee for the system to keep it up and running as poorly as it is, you know, in terms of the stuff that it needs.
That's fine.
And,
That's not my
and
problem.
for
I'm
that,
not using that.
well, then, you know, I think we could have it shut off so that you can't use it, and then you won't have to pay for it, right?
I don't want to
Yeah.
shut
I
it off.
think you have to continue to pay a minimum
Well,
monthly
you
amount.
try to an extra yard or you're to your house.
No, it's my yard next door to me.
Right. If you got a,
Something that gives a sub meter. You have a sub meter?
Right, I was gonna say,
I submit it and I got to pay every month. I get a bill, 2 bills.
Every other month,
The
When the bills come out.
every other month.
sub meter, those,
that's a
basically,
subtraction meter.
that's a subtraction for the water that's not going into the Hampton Road sanitation.
Correct.
The water's still being used.
Yes.
But is Mr. Mayor, are you asking because the minimum is you pay the minimum up to 6,000 gallons. I
Yeah,
think,
but I only use 100. So, 4 months, I haven't used any at all.
I'm trying to clarify your concern. Okay. So that what you're saying is if I only use 1,000, I shouldn't have to pay for 6,000.
Right.
Okay, that's the,
Oh, that's
That's-
a different story.
I
But that,
totally agree.
Yeah.
but that minimum is established. Just like on your electric bill, you have a certain fee that's associated with line maintenance and those kinds of things. You use any electricity or not. And it's the same kind of thing as the minimum on the water.
So it gives nobody the incentive to conserve.
Well, you know, that's between you and your neighbor.
If you don't conserve, your bill's higher. Your bill's higher if you don't conserve.
Actually,
It goes up from there.
Good.
water is the new gold. And localities have a choice of operating their own water system.
Yeah, but the point out,
Or-
not cut you off, the point I'm trying to make is, we got tobacco taxes, we never had that, we got it now. We got food taxes, we never had it, we got it now. And look at me, we wanna get more taxes, bump that up. Why keep doing it? We got enough taxes in this town.
Well, water is managed as a separate account. It's separate from the general budget. But what I was going to say is that the choice that localities have is either to have a private entity operate and offer water or for the locality to do it. It is substantially less expensive for the locality to do it. And if you went with a private water operator, not only would your rates go up, but you would have that same minimum amount because it just costs a certain amount of money to operate the system for.
I'm an old country boy, if I'll give you $1, I expect something. But I'm paying for something that I'm not even using.
I'm with you, Billy.
But that's
Well,
all I know.
and the dollars, what goes into the dollars so that every time you go to that tap, there's water there. That's what the dollars.
Without the dollar,
If you
can't
buy a
rely on
watermelon, you buy a whole watermelon, you just don't get half of them for the rest of the day.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But
But
seriously, you should look at some of the bills that private water companies charge. They're astonishing.
yeah, the Middlesex Water Authority for in town is still like 60% more, I think. And in Aqua that does Saluda is probably twice what you're paying.
Yeah.
I figured out the rate on that leak at the high school. I think I said this a couple of meetings ago, but they would have paid, it was like 2.3 times what they paid if that leak had happened here in town. So,
Yeah, American Water is another company that's
I
private.
just think it's a shame, we live here in town, we compare with everybody else. Look at that street.
It's actually just the opposite. People out of town pay more, so they're actually covering some of your expenses with
I'm not
respect to that.
talking this, I'm talking Westport, Kilmarnock, all that. We don't live over there, we just in the mountain.
Right.
West
Well,
Point,
we need to improve it, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm paying something I'm not using. Or I'm not getting, let's put it that way.
but I think West Point does it that way too.
I think everybody does.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Kine.
The last council meeting I was at, there was discussion about bridge, and a great big packet was given by the engineering company. And if you read through it very carefully, it said that if you accept any federal money, there are requirements that you have to build to federal standards. So you just have to be real careful with this grant before you accept it.
Right.
Because we may not want to be building to federal standards. That's just an
It's a
observation.
good thought.
Good thought.
Yeah, you have to watch out for grants.
Thanks, Lloyd. All right. Anybody else? Announcements? Nothing, Beth?
I wanted to ask you something. I understood not the pickle, but the oyster, that they went in and you all gave him a cease and desist letter not to play bingo there. I mean, can we get that off the books, or can we put something on the books that says, okay, if you're gonna play bingo, there's no money involved, bingo is okay?
We're talking about an enforcement action, open session. Would you like to talk about it in closed session?
No.
I don't care, I just
Okay.
wanna talk about it.
Then we'll talk about it. As I understand, when I was hired as the administrator for both the town and for zoning, that one of the council's objectives and concerns was enforcement of ordinances. Okay, that particular business got a special use permit that I believe one particular council member here this evening was concerned about the gaming aspect, because that was their request, a restaurant and an arcade. And there was concern about the type of games that would be played. So the special use permit, as they presented the case, was, oh, we're going to play backgammon, play chess or checkers or something along those lines. Okay. The game, that provision said no gaming for any cash prizes or anything like a cash prize. Okay.
Monetary value.
Yes. They reached out to me and said, hey, we've got this schedule of game nights, and we're doing this token exchange for meals, appetizers, desserts, hats, gift certificates. Okay.
Right.
What they presented to me was, are we okay doing this? The answer is no. It says no gaming for compensation, some kind of cash award. Okay. So, in issuing the cease and desist, because what they sent me was a schedule of events that had already happened. Not that were proposed to happen, but had already happened. So they violated the special use permit. Now, as with every other special use permit, council can revoke the permit. So that's an option you all have, is to revoke it. What I told them to do is stop doing what you're doing. And we had a conversation, basically said, if you want to play games, bingo, tiddlywinks, darts, whatever, for bragging rights, no prizes, you're free to do that. But you can't give a prize. We've made an application to amend that condition. That'll be up to you all if you all want to amend the condition.
And you can't talk about it now.
Good.
Which is why we go with it. But anyway, so that's just because they've made an application. That will also address some other, it's a public application, it's in the office. That will also address another change in hours, and now a change about outside speakers.
Okay, that's enough about, it's not before them and they can't discuss it.
It's a public application, it's in the office.
I know, but it prompts discussion.
Okay, so that's where we are.
When do we get that?
Next month.
Next month.
Next month.
And I know you were just doing your job.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But that's what sometimes enforcement looks like taking the gentleman to court about the golf.
It just seems like bingo really coming down.
It
And I know you have
says no gaming with cash prizes.
And for that hearing, there were at least 2 council members that were interested in avoiding the games of skill or whatever those things were,
right,
where there's cash prizes.
Yeah.
And it says no gaming for a cash type prize. They can play for bragging rights. In fact, I told them that night because they had a game scheduled for that night. I said, if you want to give somebody a round of applause at the end of the evening, go for it.
Yeah, this is first ever.
In the interest of fair disclosure, I won the first bingo thing.
And what did you get?
I'll give it back.
Motion to adjourn?
That's so moved.
All in favor?
My day started now, 16 hours ago.
Mr. Mayo?